He lived what neighbors called an ordinary life. A tidy lawn, 2 children racing scooters in the driveway, weekend barbecue smoke curling over the fence. Behind that facade, however, numbers whispered inconsistencies, and numbers never lied to him. The first whisper came from the kids. One Wednesday evening, the 4-year-old gushed about Grandma's blueberry pancakes this morning. 2 days later, the 6-year-old described bottle-feeding goats on Grandma's farm, again on a weekday. Grandma and Grandpa lived 90 minutes away and rarely left the farm midweek. Twice in 1 week made no sense. He asked his wife. She produced neat explanations. Her parents missed the children. Her father needed help on the farm. Traffic was lighter in early hours. The sentences were complete. The smile carrying them felt slightly crooked. An analyst by trade, he turned to data. Each time she drove off, he photographed the odometer and the fuel gauge, then placed a sticky note on the calendar. 7 days later, the math shouted, more than 400 unexplained miles. The next week, nearly the same. A pattern emerged like ink in water. He kept silent, waiting. One evening, she hurried upstairs to settle a fussy child and left a sticky note on the desk. AOLPW. Trust wrestled with truth. Truth won. He logged in. Her inbox became a confession booth. Messages to an old college roommate mapped lunches with an old flame from high school, followed by afternoons at a roadside motel. She mocked the man's wife for adding weight after 3 pregnancies and scheduled the next rendezvous down to the room number. He printed every email, each sheet sliding from the printer like a verdict. The stack slipped into a drawer labeled simply proof. Evidence demanded context, so he hired a private investigator, an ex-detective known for quiet thoroughness. 2 weeks later, the investigator returned with a binder thicker than a repair manual, license plate photos outside the motel, time-stamped receipts, a timeline matching every unexplained mile. Another section profiled the boyfriend, married with 3 children, serving as vice president of sales at his father-in-law's company, living in a house the in-laws owned, a life balanced on favors. The investigator even provided small details, a particular hotel keychain the boyfriend always twirled, a telltale limp from an old sports injury, the precise minutes they spent in room 205 before curtains closed. The precision left no wiggle room and no credible denials. With those facts, the husband visited a divorce attorney. Papers were drafted discreetly, stamped, and scheduled for service at his wife's workplace. No dramatic scenes in front of the children. A second copy of the investigator's report would be delivered to the boyfriend's wife. A third copy rested in a fire-safe box, insurance against any claim of fabrication. Everything unfolded on a bright Wednesday. Late morning, a courier placed divorce papers on the boutique counter where his wife arranged scented candles. Her hands trembled as she turned the first page of photographs. Meanwhile, across town, the investigator rang a doorbell. The woman who answered, toddler balanced on a hip, signed for an envelope, thanked him, and closed the door. Curiosity opened the package. Shock ended the marriage. Reaction was swift. By nightfall, she had drained the joint bank accounts, packed her children, and driven to her parents' house. Her father, efficient and furious, dismissed the son-in-law from the company the next morning and emailed eviction papers for the house he still legally owned. Without a job or home, the man scrambled for interviews, but search engines punished him. Motel photos traveled through local social media. One promising employer canceled an interview after a background check surfaced a restraining order notice filed during the separation. Desperation led to mistakes. Days later, he violated that order by showing up unannounced at his in-laws' gate, demanding to see his children. Her brother met him halfway up the driveway, and one punch broke his nose. Police arrived before the bleeding stopped. Court dates multiplied, domestic disturbance hearings, custody sessions, fines for contempt. Meanwhile, the investigator kept him updated out of professional habit. The former vice president had retreated to a small apartment 2 states over, working commission-only sales and telling anyone who listened that he'd been set up. None believed him. The photos were too clear. The analyst's own divorce progressed with spreadsheet calm. Adultery carried little legal weight for property division, but left no room for debate. She ceded the family home and accepted a custody calendar built around school schedules. Conversations focused solely on logistics, dentist appointments, after-school clubs, holiday drop-offs. Emotion stayed folded away like an unused map. On transition days, he met her on neutral ground, a library parking lot under wide security cameras. Handoffs were polite, efficient, timed to the minute. She avoided eye contact. He avoided small talk. He found small, quiet rituals to steady himself. Morning jogs before dawn, black coffee in a chipped mug, Friday movie nights with the kids. He learned pancake recipes, coached soccer, and mastered the art of listening without judgment when homework frustration melted into tears. In private moments, he reread the binder once, then slid it deeper into the safe, deciding that proof had done its work. Months passed. The dispossessed ex-executive faded from local talk, rumored to be living 2 states away, working temporary sales gigs. His professional profiles vanished, leaving only court dockets and a single mugshot in digital memory. Meanwhile, his former wife stepped into her father's company, modernized operations, and appeared in an industry journal for spearheading expansion. Occasionally, the analyst glimpsed his ex-wife at school concerts or shared birthday dinners. She looked older, edges softened by a new marriage and an insistence on privacy. They spoke in brief nods and parted as politely as strangers. Years slipped by. The children became teenagers, then young adults with driver's licenses and internships. One spring break afternoon, they asked for the unvarnished story. He answered without spite. Promises were broken. Actions have consequences. Love survives truth. They nodded, sad but not surprised. The pattern had already cast its shadow. Later, standing alone on the back porch, he breathed in a cool dusk. A neighbor, unaware of the history, commented that he seemed remarkably centered for someone who'd been through a lot. He thought of odometer snapshots, motel curtains, and a sticky note that once felt like Pandora's box. He said, "Facts have gravity. If you set them down gently, they settle where they belong." The neighbor smiled, uncertain, and wandered home. Crickets stirred in the grass, and a breeze rattled wind chimes in slow, steady rhythms. In that ordinary sound, he found closure, not triumph, not bitterness, just balance. Sometimes the surest revenge is letting facts speak, then living better while they echo in the distance. And on nights when the house fell silent, he felt lighter than he had in years. Not because someone else had fallen, but because the weight of deception was gone, and truth, once set free, required no further tending.